Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am First Lieutenant Woodson Cole, and I will be your narrator for today's ceremony. On behalf of Colonel Catherine A. Gambold, Commander, Networked Weapons and Modeling Intelligence Group, National Air and Space Intelligence Center, and the presiding officer for today's ceremony, I would like to welcome you to the Engineering Analysis Squadron's Change of Leadership Ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party, the posting of the colors by the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Honor Guard, the singing of the national anthem by Ms. Brittany Fouts, and the invocation by Chaplain Clifford Mullen.
Post the colors. Broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watch, words are gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please join me for the invocation. Almighty, this ceremony is one that I, for one, wouldn't miss. In this time of tradition and heraldry, we recognize the contributions and leadership of Mr. Mark Murray. He has led with perseverance and grace, leading his team to be successful both personally and professionally. We ask for your continued blessing on him as he brings his unique abilities to the necessary work of the A518. This work will be challenging and new, and we're confident it will be a place where Mark continues to bring out the best in the people he leads. And as the WME team welcomes Mr. Dave Barton, I ask that this team continues to set the standard for what excellence really looks like. We ask that Dave continue to lead with wisdom, grace, and strength in the days ahead. Almighty, as these men do their best to lead well, I ask that they continue to hold on to the lessons they've learned from their mentors, and that they have the humility to continue learning the difficult lessons needed for them to excel in these new roles. We collectively ask for blessing and peace in their lives and in the lives of the women and men of the WME team, the United States Air Force, and this great nation to which we've all been called to serve. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Mullen. Please be seated. Now please join me in welcoming the special guests joining us today. Please hold your applause until all guests have been announced. The outgoing director, Mr. Mark Murray, accompanied today by his friends and family, including Master Sergeant Caitlin Carter, his stepmother, Miss Jeannie Mininger, and his brother, Tom Mininger. The incoming director, Mr. David Barton, is accompanied today by his parents, Ken and Mary Barton, his brother and sister-in-law, Scott and Sherry Barton, and father-in-law, Dr. Alan Keurig. I would also like to extend a special welcome to several of our distinguished guests with us today from the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. Mr. Dwayne Harrison, Chief Scientist. Mr. Joseph Herman, Chief of Staff. Mr. Jeff Skidlar, Deputy Chief of Staff. Chief Master Sergeant Deanna M. Martinez, Senior Enlisted Leader. From the Future Capabilities and Assessments Directorate, Mr. Eric May, Deputy Director. From the Forces and Technology Intelligence Group, Colonel Jeremiah Burgess, Commander. Mr. Paul Frisler, Technical Advisor. From the Geospatial and Synchronous Intelligence Group, Dr. Carl Brenner, Technical Advisor. From the Global Exploitation Group, Mr. Dale Benedetti, Technical Advisor. From the Networked Weapons and Modeling Group, Ms. Michelle Busby, Technical Advisor. And welcome to all other guests who have joined us for this special event. The heritage of the engineering Analysis Squadron traces its roots back to 1917, to the Foreign Data Section of the U.S. Army Air Corps Engineering Division, which conducted technical evaluation of captured enemy aircraft and foreign technology documents at McCook Field. Throughout its history, the engineering squadron tackled some of the intelligence community's hardest technical challenges, demonstrated incredible creativity and teamwork, and created amazing intelligence. As a result of that work, many of the center's activities and foundational capabilities were born out of the engineering organization. In the 1950s, the Aircraft Performance Branch were pioneers in the use of computers for aircraft analysis. In fact, the Engineering Directorate had the second computer ever at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which they used to do aerodynamic computations. When the ballistic missile threat emerged and when air-to-air missiles became a threat, the center turned to the Engineering Directorate to develop first of its kind analytic methods for the intelligence community. With the advent of overhead imagery, the Engineering Directorate originated the field of photogrammetry for intelligence. The men and women of the Engineering Directorate also spearheaded the exploitation of signals and created electronics intelligence, or ELINT. A team of engineers that would eventually become the squadron's signature flight played key roles in a small, highly secretive program to support the U.S. stealth technology development programs of the 1970s and the 1980s. In the 1990s, the Engineering Division reshaped the landscape of the Department of Defense acquisition and test through the provision of threat models as authoritative products. Innovation lies at the very core of the engineering ethos, and that tradition continues in full force in the Engineering Analysis Squadron and our members to this day. And now, please welcome Colonel Gambold.
That's what you got to do when you're short. First of all, beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and it's always great to see Chaplain Mullen. I mean, he's truly one of a kind. All right, good afternoon, Team NASIC. Woo! Family and friends, thanks, guys. Family and friends. I wanted to echo my own welcome and let you know how excited I am to officiate this event. I've done my share of traditional military changes of command, and while this ceremony will be different in some ways, it holds firm to the most important part, which is to pass the guidon from one leader to another, formalizing and symbolizing the transition of leadership responsibility from one fantastic leader to another. In this case, not every case, I'm just kidding, in most cases. Before I dive into just how fantastic both these leaders are, I want to provide some insight additional to what we just heard into the Engineering Analysis Squadron mission and the important role it plays in supporting our national security goals. Looking around the room, I know most of you probably understand this, and raise your hand if you're an engineer. Okay, some of this I'll be speaking to the poli-sci majors, so just bear with me. The WME mission statement is, apply a model-based approach to threat system analysis to promote discovery, highlight intelligence gaps, perform predictive analysis, capture characteristics, and model dynamic performance, providing these products in flexible formats to enable military operations, force modernization, and policy-making decisions. So for those of us that work inside NASIC, we all are like, yep, I got that. For those of us that work outside of NASIC, I want to tell you what that at least means to me as a kind of a poli-sci major. This squadron is revolutionizing how we deliver interactive intelligence in a period of time when our national security challenges demand speed and agility. And they are leaders in this field, transforming how both the intelligence community and the Department of Defense will make decisions based on intelligence in the future. I cannot underscore the importance of the work that they do, which is why we called it out in our group name. We are the Networked Weapons and Modeling Intelligence Group. In this ceremony, you'll hear about WME's incredible history, which you have, and learn about many of the exceptional professionals who have had the great privilege of leading the squadron, a really cool tradition that we do in this ceremony. At this point, I'd like to highlight and say thank you to its most recent director, Mr. Mark Murray. Mark, first of all, congratulations on an incredibly successful directorship. You came in as an outside hire to NASIC, which is not an easy thing to do, and totally crushed it. I can say that because the boss isn't here. Seriously, you took Colonel Batum McCall's direction, and you didn't just run, you sprinted. You postured the squadron to compete in a very complex environment, got investments and the budget on track, and made sure your people were taken care of. And we're going to hear more about all the great things that you did in the mission space, but I really want to drill into that last part. When I got to the group, we were working through a personnel issue, which helped me understand your leadership style and approach. And I learned quickly how you cared about your people and how much you cared about your people. You were fair and compassionate and did the tough work to understand the root cause of the issue. And I mean, that's why we hired leaders, right? To really dig in and apply their judgment. Otherwise, we'd just run it through AI and ChatGPT like your squadron slide, right? No, but you really did. And for everybody that, like, Mark did the work, and we had a lot of conversations on each one of those issues that came up. You also leaned into the fun and building your team. One of the first WME events I attended was your picnic that included families, and it was awesome. And not just because you threw yourself on the grenade and took a few pies in the face, in which your hair actually stayed completely intact, which is impressive. But kidding aside, it was awesome because so many friends and families showed up, and I think that's a testament to the culture of WME. And those things really matter. Also, your vocal participation and expertise, all things related to contracting, made me realize your days in WM were numbered. I think I told you that after a meeting, like, you gotta pipe down or they're gonna take you. And the stand-up of the A staff secured that. It has been amazing to watch you get after and transform some of our biggest challenges and processes. We have a strategy. Continuing your standard of excellence across the board. Thank you for your leadership, and while I know it was bittersweet leaving WME, we both know that the squadron will continue to excel under the leadership of Dave Barton. Dave, welcome to the team. I'm not going to spend much at all time talking about your deep expertise and in this mission area and qualification, because I know everybody in this room already knows that. But I am going to focus on the other things that are going to make you an outstanding squadron director. Your passion, creativity, and servant leader mentality embody the best of our group's values. We sat down and talked in preparation for this event, and no matter what we were talking about, it all came back to your family. From your service roots that include your dad, Ken, who was an F-111 pilot in the Air Force, and your mom, Mary, who was in her own right an Army nurse, to your brothers, Scott and Brian, who all live locally and serve as part of your stability and foundation. You also talked extensively about your wife, Brandy, who has her own big job as a dentist, and to playing with your kids, Blake, Claire, and Lauren. Your family is your bedrock. You have an amazing support system, so it was no surprise that when I asked you what drives you as a leader, you said, building a work family. You know what a good support system looks like and what you want to replicate that within your unit. You also talked about developing people and letting them take the limelight. But you also remembered to thank your mom for making you take that speech class in the 10th grade so that you could actually stand up and talk at events like this. And apparently I heard last night at dinner there was threats of like stones being thrown during the ceremony. So obviously a very tight-knit group. That said, you are a natural servant leader and you go the extra mile to let your team shine. Your creative side is legendary among those at NASIC who have been involved in the NASIC sketches. And I had the opportunity to see it on display firsthand Friday night as you designed Scud's costume. Scud's great at spreadsheets, not so much at t-shirt design. And that creativity will serve the squadron well as we navigate digital transformation, analytic modernization to go faster. I've long said that creativity in our workforce is one of our strongest competitive advantages against our adversaries. I could spend several more pages talking about how qualified Dave is, but I'm going to leave you with a couple of things that Dave said.
Thank you, Colonel Gamble. At this time, we ask that you please stand while Colonel Gamble presents the Air Force Meritorious Civilian Service Award Medal to Mr. Murray. In recognition of his distinguished performance as Director, Engineer Analysis Squadron, Air and Cyberspace Intelligence Group, National Air and Space Intelligence Center, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, from 21 September 2021 to 30 October 2023. During this period, Mr. Murray led 193 personnel in the production of over 800 reports and products that informed the Department of Defense and its allies on advanced and emerging threats and empowered the $1 trillion in defense investments. Additionally, he led the modernization of the squadron's contracting strategy, developing the contractual framework required to launch a $60 million national investment in modeling and simulation across the defense intelligence enterprise, and enabling an increase in modeling and simulation production for critical systems to support a high-end, near-term conflict. Finally, Mr. Murray engaged with multiple senior leaders in the United States Indo-Pacific Command on the behalf of the Center Commander to address her top operational priority, spearheading the creation of the Command, Control, Communications, Computers, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, Modeling and Simulation Flight, and addressing critical intelligence gaps in a highly contested environment. The distinctive accomplishments of Mr. Murray reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Mr. Murray will now make a few comments.
Now comes the hard part. ChatGPT, do not fail me now. As long as we coordinate, there's some themes between our two speeches. So, thank you everybody. Thank you everybody for attending. So that's going to be a theme for this as well. Please bear with me while I acknowledge everyone involved. Time in squadron leadership requires the support, advice, partnership, and patience of so many So get ready for a lot of name dropping. And I apologize if I leave anybody out. They kept me to 20 minutes, so I had to, keep it tight. Keep it tight. So first let me thank Major Seek, Captain Park, Lieutenant King, Lieutenant Nishimura, Lieutenant Woody Culp, Senior Master Sergeant DeFrancesco, Master Sergeant Good, and Mr. Ryan for organizing and executing this event. I truly appreciate the amount of work you have put in to make this a success. Thank you to Brittany for your beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and to Chaplain Mullen for recording the invocation before he departed. Chaplain Mullen helped the squadron navigate some really difficult times and issues, so it was a real honor and a pleasure that he was able to record that to be part of this as well. The Air Force is better for having chaplains like Chaplain Mullen. Thank you to Jeannie, Tom, and Kate for being here today, and shout out to everybody on the video to watch this later. Okay. Thank you to Dwayne, Joe, Scott, and Colonel Gamble, along with the NASIG senior leaders who are here. I'm grateful for your mentoring, partnership, and friendship. Thank you to Colonel Batumbakal, Scott, and Carl for believing me on that first hiring panel, and then to General Calabrese, Colonel Batumbakal, Joe, and Dwayne for on the second hiring panel. It was a little bit of a marathon when we got there. Thank you guys for taking a chance on some guy from DC with Jimmy Neutron hair. I want to acknowledge my peers in the seat, currently as squadron commanders and directors, especially the Sinister Six. I don't know how many of you guys made it over here. There we go. You're an incredible team, and I'm so thankful to have had the partnership as we navigate the responsibilities and challenges presented by command. Thank you to the WM group, Colonel Gamble, Michelle Busby, Scud, Captain Desai, Sergeant Wright, Bernice, Marty, and Rob, and the WME front office, Major Malone, Logan, Courtney, and Captain Pitcher. Some of you guys have already moved on to new roles, but any successes during my time are as attributable to you as they are to anyone else. Couldn't have done it without you. It really took a team. Eric May. As you know, the relationship between a director and the SIA is as unique as it is important. I want to say that I truly valued everything you brought to the mission. For your tireless dedication, number of hours you put in to make the squadron's success are enviable. Your expertise, excellence as a leader, and advice, and for your superpower for always being fashionably late to every meeting. I also truly value that I could always read exactly what's on your face and what you're feeling from that. I never had to wonder if you thought I was being an idiot or not. It was just all right there. You need someone who's going to be honest with you, and your face never lies. Truly, no success occurred, within the squadron without your fingerprints on it. And I'm humbled and grateful to call you a parent. Thank you to the flight leaders and Pias. I'm going to list everybody because I think you guys all deserve it. Dave, Chantel, John, Frank, Addison, Ray, Dana, John, Nate, Dan, Jeremy, Russ, Stephen, Jim, Stahl, MJ, Megan, John, Jose, Ben, Jeff, and Steven. I told you there's going to be a lot of name dropping here, but I want to make sure everyone gets called out. Thank you for your advice, partnership, and friendship, but mostly thank you for the patience and tutelage to help a guy who didn't really know anything about your business keep their squadron moving forward. Your motivation and dedication kept us delivering on our customer needs despite the many challenges and distractions that popped up every day. And I acknowledge many of those came from me. So, thank you for that. Some of you may remember the story I told about my dad during my speech 2 years ago. That he was a meat cutter on base here. I didn't tell the other part of that story. In 2001, my dad suddenly caught Legionnaire's disease from work and passed away very shortly after. It goes without saying that was an incredibly difficult time for us. However, compounding the experience of his loss was how his leadership failed him and us. Like many have experienced loss, it changed my path. I guess it really defined my path moving forward. While I'm proud of everything that we accomplished during my tenure, and I'm impressed with the quality of professionals I had the pleasure of leading, I'll always be grateful for the opportunity to fulfill a promise that I made back then. But I would do everything I could to protect my team if I were in a similar role. COVID presented a challenging environment early on, but together as a leadership team, we did everything we could to succeed, and succeeded in providing a workplace where everyone felt as safe as possible. Through COVID, personal and professional crisis, we led and supported the team through the most challenging events imaginable. Thank you for letting me keep that promise. Jeannie, you took me in during the hardest part of our lives. You helped me get started at Sinclair because you can't enlist in the Air Force as a high school dropout without some college time. You invested in me when I was the most alone in the world. I will never forget that, and I'll always be grateful. I'm only here because of the support you provided then. Thank you for taking a chance on some weird kid from Parkland with Jimmy Neutron. To the members of WME, I know I pushed you guys hard. I asked a lot. However, I was humbled and so impressed that whenever I asked anything of you, you answered the call with professionalism, dedication, innovation, and a passion to do good. Often you had already started working on what I was hoping for before I even asked, because you are so in tune with the mission needs. You are the best of NASIC, and I'll be forever grateful for having the opportunity to be part of your team. Dave, when I joined the organization under the circumstances as they were, your professionalism and commitment to the squadron was truly commendable. Every day you put the mission first and went out of your way to help me get my feet underneath me. I respect you so much for that and for the perspective, leadership, and inspired thinking you brought to the team every day. I also respect that you weren't afraid to come in to my office, close the door, and tell me when I was screwing it out. You were a fantastic partner in leading the squadron. I look forward to how we partner in our new roles moving forward. We started many initiatives as a leadership team. We pivoted the organization towards the most immediate and dire threats. I'm so happy and confident that under your leadership, not only is the team in great hands, but you will guide those initiatives to success while also starting many of your own and seeing those to success and making NASIC and the nation better for it. In closing, I'll end this speech in much the same way I ended it 2 years ago. To the men and women of 858, we are in uncertain times and the pressures of our competitors bearing down upon our mission. However, I have faith and confidence that we will execute our role expertly, ensuring our nation's success. I haven't been part of the team long, but I'm truly impressed with everything I see, the energy, the experience, and a deep desire to do the best for our nation. I am humbled to be part of your team and take the role as the 858 director, and incredibly excited for everything we will accomplish together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Please welcome Mr. May, former Engineering Analysis Squadron Senior Intelligence Analyst.
Today we get to do something that's not traditional for every squadron, because we don't have the opportunity to have the leaders for our squadron to come back. So today we have the pleasure of having past Engineering Analysis Squadron Directors present to help us honor the rich heritage of the squadron. We understand each leader advances the squadron's legacy by standing on the shoulders of distinguished leaders that come before them. We will now pass the guidon between the squadron's past leaders. Mr. Tom Heckler, Mr. Scott Kohlenkamp, Mr. Joe Herman, Ms. Michelle Busby, Mr. Jeffrey Spiller, will you please join Mr. Murray on stage? From 1993 to 2003, Mr. Tom Heckler led the Engineering Division. Under Mr. Heckler's leadership, the Engineering Division became the epicenter of National Air Intelligence Center's dedicated modeling and simulation support. The division was catapulted to the forefront of a groundbreaking effort to provide authoritative models to support the operational test of the F-22 program. This was the start of the Threat Modeling and Analysis Program, or TMAP, which continues to flourish to this day. During Mr. Heckler's tenure as director, the squadron motto, "To model is to understand," was coined. This motto endures as the squadron's heraldry, as the arc that crowns the squadron patch. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Shirley led the division from 2003 to 2005, and then passed the director position to Mr. Scott Kohlenkamp. Mr. Scott Kohlenkamp led the division from 2005 to 2009, and in 2008, in conjunction with NASIC unitization, the Engineering Division became an active Air Force squadron. Under Mr. Kohlenkamp's leadership, TMAP models and methods that started to support to acquisition and test began to proliferate increasingly into operational warfighter tools. The Engineering Analysis Squadron developed and delivered increasingly integrated models of aircraft, signatures, avionics, and weapon electronics needed for the F-22. In 2009, Mr. Kohlenkamp passed the squadron guidon to Mr. Herman. As squadron director, Mr. Herman reestablished ballistic missile dynamic modeling within the squadron in partnership with the Ballistic Missile Squadron, and advanced both modeling and signature support to the Missile Defense Agency. Partnering with our sister Intel centers, the squadron developed the IC simulation framework that would result in the Integrated Threat Analysis and Simulation Environment, or ITAS. Mr. Herman led the squadron until 2012, when he passed the guidon to Ms. Michelle Busby. Under Ms. Busby's leadership, the Engineering Analysis Squadron launched the Quantitative Integrated Analysis Flight, initiated the development of space and counter space modeling, and championed the start of the Chimera High Fidelity Modeling Program. Ms. Busby began an enduring partnership with the Joint Simulation Environment, supporting the F-35, support that continues to thrive to this day. She also stood up a dedicated modeling and simulation applications team to expand the squadron's software development cadre, streamlining application development. In 2018, the Center entrusted Mr. Skudler with the leadership of the Engineering Analysis Squadron. Mr. Skudler served as the director from 2018 to 2021. His efforts secured resource investments for modeling and simulation, resulting in substantial growth and expansion of the squadron's mission. Additionally, he oversaw the design and planning for the squadron's future home on the 3rd floor of NASIC's new building to address the center's modeling and simulation needs. Next summer, the squadron will move into its new home. When I got to the squadron, he believed that, or had a desire to still be with the squadron when it moved to the new building. He's had a couple of opportunities since then, has been unable to do that. But during his tenure, Mr. Skudler was called to serve with the group, and Mr. Barton served as the acting director for 17 months before Mr. Skudler officially relinquished his directorship in 2021 to Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray's accomplishments as squadron director, highlighted in his award, are now etched into the squadron's legacy. Thank you to the former squadron directors. You may be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The ceremony to recognize a new leader is rooted in military history dating back to the 18th century during the reign of Frederick the Great of Prussia. At that time, organizational flags were developed with color arrangements and symbols unique to each particular unit. To this flag and its leader, the soldiers of the unit would dedicate their loyalty and trust. When a change of leadership was to take place, the flag was passed to the individual assuming leadership. This gesture was accomplished in front of the unit so that all could see and witness their new leader assuming the dutiful position. He who held the flag also held the soldier's allegiance. All authority and responsibility are vested in the hands of the leader, a chain unbroken to the commander-in-chief, that no unit may ever be without a leader. So today, when Mr. Mark Murray relinquishes leadership, all authority and responsibility for the Engineering Analysis Squadron are immediately transferred to Mr. David Barton. The passing of the guidon culminates a series of significant achievements under Mr. Murray's leadership, foresight, and guidance, and it reflects great confidence in the continuance of those achievements to come under the leadership of Mr. Barton. And now, please stand for the change of leadership. Colonel Gambold will now appoint Mr. David A. Barton as leader of the Engineering Analysis Squadron, National Air and Space Intelligence Center, effective date 30 October 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, the new director of the Engineering Analysis Squadron, Mr. David Barton. Please be seated.
Thank you very much. Catch my breath here. It is an honor to be standing here today with so many family, friends, and coworkers. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to support both Mark and I on this day. I wish I could recognize all the people who have helped support me over the years, but I also know you don't want to hear me drone on endlessly for 20 or more minutes. So let me say thank you to everyone who's given me encouragement, support, and helped me be my best. You all mean so much to me. Colonel Gamble, I appreciate your trust in this tremendous vote of confidence. I'm looking forward to working with you and the other center and squadron leaders to advance the engineering analysis squadron and its personnel, and help NASIC to meet the challenges of tomorrow to deter and, if necessary, defeat our adversaries. Mark, I greatly appreciate your leadership and all that you did for the squadron. You advanced our mission, kept our traditions going, started a few new traditions like a pie in the face, and that's been trying to mess up your hair. Didn't work. I greatly valued your friendship, insights, and support. Thank you for keeping the squadron performing at such a high level. I look forward to partnering with you in the 5-8 to accomplish our mission. My mom and dad, brother Scott, sister-in-law Sherry, and father-in-law Alan are here today. There are quite a few more in the area that couldn't make it today. I'm very fortunate to have so much family nearby. This is where it starts. I greatly appreciate their love and support. My mom and dad celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary in June. They are the world's best parents. And have given the entire family so much love. If you're wondering where my dry sense of humor comes from, it's my dad. You can blame him. And also my brother, last night saying, "We can do you tomorrow, right?" That's the type of love and support I get in the family. It is truly special that my mom and dad still host Sunday night dinner, like last night. For my two brothers and I, our wives, and their 4 grandkids, nearly every Sunday. Thank you for everything you've done for me. My father-in-law, Alan, works at AFRL in Area B, and has a unique perspective on my work because he has collaborated with NASIC and knows what TMAP is. We both know just enough about what each other does to have some good unclassified conversations. Alan, thank you for being here today. My wife, Brandy, unfortunately had to work today. She could not be here, as Colonel Gamble mentioned. She's a dentist, and sometimes work has to be the priority when others are depending on you. We celebrated our 14-year anniversary last month. Or, as I like to think of it, serving 14 years of a life sentence. Our 3 kids, Blake, Claire, and Lauren, are in school today, but Brandy and the kids will be joining us later. The kids bring both of us so much joy and a new adventure every day. I appreciate getting welcome to the squadron. I think I've been around for a couple years, as you may have realized. I spent 23 years at NASIC, nearly all of those within the engineering analysis squadron. In fact, I've now spent more years of my life with the engineering squadron family than not. When Joe Herman and Gary O'Connell were interviewing me back in 2000, I told them I didn't like software development and I didn't want anything to do with modeling and simulation. Well, that just goes to show you that sometimes when we think we have things figured out, life has a funny way of guiding you on a different journey that we never knew we wanted to take. Fortunately, they must have looked past that, brought me on as a co-op, and the rest brings us here today. Just a few moments ago, we had former directors representing 30 years of engineering squadron leadership. Think about that. 30 years. How rare and awesome is to have that much leadership in one place. It is not cliche to say that the strategic vision and pioneering leadership of these former directors continues to impact our squadron efforts and accomplishments to this day. I wouldn't be here without the countless hours of mentoring and development each of them have invested in me. I have looked up and admired them throughout my career. And it is humbling to be given the responsibility for the position all of them have held. I am blessed to be friends with them. To the men and women of the Engineering Analysis Squadron, your hard work to apply and advance modeling and simulation to enable predictive analysis of adversary threat systems continues to be outstanding. Your dedication to our mission is inspiring. Recently, digital transformation and digital engineering have taken over the defense community's lexicon, as well as priorities across the DoD's organizations. For our squadron, those terms don't represent a brand new idea, but rather they emphasize the efforts the squadron has pioneered for the last 30 years and traces all the way back to this organization's roots. Analytic agility in advancing M&S methods and tools in response to challenges posed by our adversaries has been a hallmark of our squadron. And it's one of the things I love about working here. Since 2020, Air Force senior leaders have been talking about our pacing threat and accelerating readiness for great power competition. Over the last few years, our squadron has expanded our focus and stood up a new C4ISR flight to advance our M&S capabilities to better support the warfighter in the Air Force's operational imperatives. In a recent speech, Secretary Kendall said, "For those of you who may be wondering when we'll get back to normal, this is normal." The Engineering Analysis Squadron's expanded mission and this new operational customer focus does not represent a temporary shift. It is our new normal. As we have done throughout our squadron's history, we will evolve and innovate within modeling simulation and the analysis it enables to get after our nation's biggest challenges. Innovation within engineering design, modeling, simulation, and analysis doesn't only represent what we've done, it represents who we are. Innovation thrives within the Engineering Analysis Squadron because it's in our DNA, both within the squadron's DNA and, more importantly, within the DNA of the people in it. The people, which together are the Engineering Squadron family. Another reason why I love working here. I'd like to recognize the team that made all of this happen. Brittany, thank you for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem and for your leadership in our squadron. I especially want to thank Captain Park for all of her efforts planning the ceremony. She did an outstanding job and pulled together a great team. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize Lieutenant King, Lieutenant Culp, Lieutenant Nishimura, and everyone else that helped plan and execute today's event. While each of these officers is a contributor to our squadron's technical mission, they also bear the responsibility for their officership, and they will carry forward these great traditions into the broader Air Force. Today was only possible because of the hard work of the team. I am grateful for all of your efforts. Thank you. I am honored and humbled to accept great responsibility of this position, but I know I can only do it with the support of the best team imaginable, the Engineering Analysis Squadron. We must be integrated by design with our partners across NASIC, the Defense Intelligence Enterprise, and our allies. Together, we will achieve so much more. This ceremony is not about any one person. It's about the Engineering Analysis Squadron, its legacy, its future, and its people. I received quite a few recommendations on how I should approach my speech, but only one really resonated with me, and it touched on one of our squadron's traditions: food and feastables. So my last line is inspired by my DO's recommendation. It's time for cake. Let's celebrate the squadron together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. The men and women of the Engineering Analysis Squadron look forward to your leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Air Force song and the departure of the official party. We ask that you remain in place until the official party and special guests have departed. Additionally, we invite everyone to join us at the reception area behind you for receiving line and reception to congratulate Mr. Barton on his new position of leadership. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you for attending.